Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat, and today I would like to talk about Death in Heels by Kitty Murphy. In the story, Fiona's best friend Robyn has his first show as drag queen Mae B, but the night ends on a disastrous note when a fellow drag queen gets murdered. Unwilling to leave this crime to the inept and uninterested police, Fi sets out to hunt for clues to make sure her friends are safe. But not everybody appreciates her persistence. So this is a cozy mystery set in Dublin's drag scene, so I was intrigued and I kind of hope to read this from a drag queen's perspective, but the author is, as far as I can tell, or read, a woman, so I can see why she stuck to the perspective of just Fiona, the female best friend of one of the drag queens. Unfortunately, this made me feel like Fiona was a lot more bland than virtually all of her friends, and it took me some time to actually warm up to her because it felt like 50% of the book was just her upsetting people with being stubborn about this crime without making any real progress. And to that end, it also has to be said, if it weren't for drag queens' mothers, biological mothers, then this crime would have gone unsolved and would have gotten quite a few more people killed as well. Fairly early on, one of the drag queens is trying to get to a show and has to taxi her way there in full drag. That seems a bit odd to me. You would think that a club that puts on drag shows would have a backstage area where people can get ready. Because you don't want your wig to get wet, you don't want your dress or makeup to run in the rain, and I don't know, it just seems odd to me to force someone to be tucked for that long, because Drag Race taught me you don't want to do that for hours on end. And just turn up to the club in full drag already. That feels like something you should finish or do backstage, really. But I've never seen the backstage of any club, so who knows, maybe some of the ones in Dublin are actually so small that they don't have a backstage area, I don't know. Seems weird to me though. Now Dublin might not be the size of London, but it's also not like a village. And because of that, it seemed rather odd how often people just run into each other or happen to see people do something and get clues from it. So while the first corpse shows up fairly early on, the story itself takes a bit of time to actually get going, which wouldn't be so bad if I had cared about Fiona a bit more in the beginning, but she just seemed very obsessed with this first death without having any clues or making any progress beyond having a gut feeling. It's like, I mean, gut feeling is nice and all, but you know, not if it takes then 40% of the book for more stuff to happen. So it's like, okay, not sure why I'm hanging out with this character at this point. But yeah, at least she cares enough to get herself into hot water with just about everybody, because quite a few people are unhappy that she's looking into this. Even non-guilty parties are upset that she keeps digging and picking at it, because the police rules the first death an accident to begin with. So while Fiona is supposed to be the one who solves this crime, like I said earlier on, if it weren't for some moms pushing her or giving her more clues, nobody would have ever known what was really going on. Fiona is pretty good at misunderstanding things in general. At some point she talks to someone who says something along the lines of, yeah, I need to get back home before this time to take Martha for a walk. I feel like any reasonable person would understand this as, yeah, I have a pet at home that needs to go out at some point and I can't just be away for hours. But Fiona understands as, oh, he has a girlfriend or wife named Martha at home. And I'm like, okay. The only possibility that I could match this up with is if the person she was talking to was the carer for another person and they literally could not go out without help. But then I feel like it would have been phrased differently. So from this sentence, I would have never assumed that they were talking about another person, but definitely dog or pet in general. But no, Fiona is then for quite a few chapters convinced that they are either taken or married. Yeah, so I'm not sure how this person really solved the crime. The way Fiona's friendship with Robyn suffers throughout the story seems like another case of actual communication might have solved all of your issues. Overall, as the story takes a bit to get going, it also takes the characters a while to come to life on the page, which is a shame because if you have such a colorful scene that your story takes place in, like the drag scene in general, then I would have quite liked more time with those colorful characters rather than Fiona, who is, I'm sorry to say, simply a bit boring. I mean, she's perfectly average, I'd say, but, you know, compared to where you could have been, or where you could have spent a lot of time in the story, it seems a bit sad. More than once I had a bit of a problem understanding who is going where or who is doing what. Like, you have quite a few characters in a scene, and then everybody's doing something, moving around and talking at the same time. And I'm not sure whether it's just a trouble with me imagining these things, or whether some things could have taken a bit more work maybe, because at points I had no clue what was going on, or it just read like somebody would have walked straight into a wall from the way it was put on the page. Characters in general in this book are good at misreading emotions of other characters, because the culprit is obviously part of the extended group, and I feel like as a reader you pick up on who has issues with whom sooner than Fiona or any of the others do, because I could see who was responsible quite a few chapters before it gets revealed. Overall, I liked the characters, bar Fiona really, and the world enough to come back for the second book. So I would give it this cat and a paw. And if you like a cozy mystery in the drag scene, then this might be for you. Do let me know in the comments whether you have other cozy mysteries or books in general that play in the drag scene, because I'm curious whether they will come off as more colorful than this. And also, if you've read the book, do let me know whether the movement with many characters in one scene confused you as well, or whether it's just me. Like and subscribe if you want to help this channel out, and thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another video. Bye folks!